Hello folks, thanks for joining this episode of Sam's Device Advice. Today we're going to be looking at some unique ways of using this technology in the English classroom. The techniques I'm going to show you would work in a lot of different scenarios, but we're going to be specifically looking at how to make an interactive story for students. I find they really enjoy this activity, especially if you're into story writing at that time. Before we get to that, just a quick note that I did get a new camera, so I'm unfortunate that you're going to be able to see me in a lot more detail, so my apologies. So we're going to look at the Google Form version first. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new Google Form. In my Google Drive, I click on New, I go down to More, and then I click on Google Forms. I do have a whole other video on the creation of Google Forms, on the basics of it. So I won't go through the actual monotony of creating the form. I've actually already started my story here. So I'll give you a quick rundown of what I have here, and then I'm going to show you how I add another section to the story. So each story in this section is built into questions. So it's you find yourself, or it gives you the setting or where you are, and then I have a multiple choice question where it gives 1, 2, 3, however many options you want to. And then on the right hand side here, you can see that based on the question, it's going to go to a specific section of my story. And it's an important thing to note is that you need to make sure that each of these are in their own section for this to work. So if I scroll down, you're going to see that I have section 2, which is the house, section 3, which is a clearing, section 4, which is inside the house, then I have upstairs, and I have a bear, which is one of my endings. So I'm going to show you how I would create the next step of one of these settings, and what's going to happen is I'm going to do one of the branches where the students come across an old house and they go inside. And what I have here is once they click go inside, they go inside the house. So if I go to the in the house setting here, now I have this question. So the question that I have is you're inside the house, you go upstairs or you go downstairs. So what I did is I had to click on these 3 dots on the bottom right of my multiple choice question, and I had to turn on go to section based on answer. So I'll turn this back on for you. And then now that I have this question selected, I can choose where it's going to jump to. So in this section, I'm going to have, if they click you go upstairs, obviously they're going to go to the section called upstairs. But I need to make a new selection for downstairs. This is what's going to happen. If they go downstairs, they're going to find themselves in a trap, and that's going to be the end. So I need to create a new section. So on my right-hand toolbar here, I choose my last options, this 2 bolded bars, and that's going to create a new section. And I'm going to call this one basement. And then instead of adding a question, because this is one of my endings, I'm going to add a picture. And let's search for scary basement. Oh, should probably, that's good enough. Click select. And now I have a picture of a basement. And I'm going to have the title, You Are Now Trapped. So because I've created this new section, I need to go back up to my in the house scenario. And then I have to click on this side over here, go to section 5, which is basement. So now if somebody were to choose the downstairs option, it would go to basement. Now, one thing I want to make sure you see before you do this, because a lot of people will run into this problem. If one of your endings isn't your last question of your quiz or of your form, what's going to happen is, let's say my students get here and it says, now you are trapped. This option that I haven't changed here says continue to next section. So they're just going to see a button that says next, and then it's going to end up going to section 6, which I don't want them to do. I want this to be an ending. So I need to make sure I click this option below and then go down to my last, which says submit form. So now after somebody gets to the basement, they're going to see a button that says submit, and that's going to be the ending of this story. So anytime you have an ending, you need to make sure you cut off that question from the rest of the slides, or the rest of the form, sorry. Now, if your ending is your last slide, your last form page, then you don't have that option. So you can see here the bear ate you is one of my endings, and you don't have to worry about it. Obviously, it can't go anywhere else. Now, I want to test this. I want to make sure that my story works. So I'm going to scroll all the way to the top, and I'm going to click on preview. So this is how you would check if your form works before you would send it out. So I'm going to try to get into the house. So I believe I have to go to the right path and then click next. I'm going to go inside of the house and click next. And in this case, I want to go downstairs. I want to see if my trap worked. So they go downstairs, hit next, and you are now trapped. So, and as you can see, I have a submit button. Unfortunately, you can't really get rid of this back button, so you're going to continue to click back to go to previous parts, but then people can retry the story if they want to. So there's a lot of fun to be had with this. You can add different pictures for each section. You can make this as elaborate as you want to. And just so you know, I tend to have my students create this on paper or in Google Drawings first and make sure they map out where their story goes. And if you're interested, I'll quickly show you. If I'm in my drive, if I click on New, then More, then Google Drawings, you can do this fairly quickly in Google Drawings, and it's a tool I absolutely love, and I think it's underappreciated. So what I have students do is I have them go up to the top and they create a shape, and they would maybe draw a shape, and they would have, they would just do this as each cell. So I'm going to have that this is my start. I'm going to resize this. I'm going to create another shape below, and these are the two branches that I could go to. And I'm actually just going to Control C and then Control V, so I can have two identical ones side by side. I'm going to give myself a little space here. And then in this one, I'm going to have that you can go right or you can go left. Oh, I need to make this a little bigger to make sure right fits. And then, because I like keeping this fairly organized, I'm going to click on this line option here. And you can see if I hover the line over top of any of these cells, it gives me these nodes on the side to connect. So now I can actually connect my start to this. So I would have my students create their entire story through this first and just have the tree branching off in all these directions so that when they go to actually create their form, they're not creating this up on the spot. Now, the same thing would go for a Google Slides. So I'm going to show you how to do a very similar thing in a little bit more visual manner. And it can be really fun as well. So again, I have a story that's already created, and this is one that a colleague of mine made when we were teaching at Fanshawe College. So his is about the tiny robot. So he has this first page where it introduces his character, and then his on slide 3 is when you get into your choices. So he has the option to mow the lawn or take out the trash, and I'm going to add another option so I can show you how this works. I'm going to add the option of raking the lawn. So again, I'm going to add a picture. So I'm going to click on the picture button, click on search from the web, and you can see I already have rake. So I'm going to choose this picture here, and I'm going to drag it over, and I need to resize my picture because it's going to be gigantic. And I'm doing this quickly, so please don't judge my aesthetics. I promise I would do this a little bit more attractively. So what I need to do to link this so that it opens up to the next slide that I want it to, if I click on my picture, on my toolbar up here, you're going to see this option that says Insert Link. I can also use the hotkey Control K, which I like to do. But I'm going to click this link, and then in here I could paste in a website address if I wanted to go somewhere else. But in this case, I'm going to click Slides in this presentation, and then you can see it lists all of my options of which slide I can jump to. So in this case, I'm going to have it go to slide 5, and that's where the little robot gets taken away. Spoiler alert, sorry. So now, when I go to present this, as I click through, you can see my little robot is introduced. And then I have the option on each of these to click to go to a certain place. So now if I click on my rakes the leaves, now my little guy's going to be taken away by aliens, and it's the end. So another really fun way to use these tools to make these interactive stories. It makes the students do a lot of planning, and it can be a lot of fun. The students that I've done this with have really had a great time with it. And it's also showing them how these tools work. So then you can teach them how to link out of a presentation to another website if you need to. Or if you're using Google Forms for a survey, you can have a question that asks, are you in grade 5 or grade 6? And then if it does that, you can have the grade 6s go to a section specifically for them and vice versa. So it's a really useful skill to start learning how to use, and this is a fun activity to kind of put it in place. So that's all I have for you today, looking at Google Forms and Google Slides for creating interactive stories. As always, if you have any questions, send me an email. It's sam@samgoving.com. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching, and make sure you hit that subscribe button, and have a great day. Cheers.